Hello, everybody. Welcome back. You can't pour from an empty cup. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this title is you can't love others properly if you don't love yourself properly. Being you can't pour into someone else if you are empty. So, in order to, love others, you have to love yourself. Your self love becomes the blueprint of your love to others. This is important because the way you love others can really determine how you see yourself. It's a mode of reflection. If you don't know how to love yourself, you're not going to properly love others because mainly it can set up proper boundaries for yourself and for the others, respectful boundaries that lead to growth. And being your full self or being, present with someone else, if you're fully, if you love yourself, contently and fully, where you can, abide to things and, be able to withstand on your own platform, it shows authenticity fully. You're not hiding parts of yourself. You're not being, you're not trying to hide something or be something who you aren't. Because being someone who you aren't while trying to love someone else is, disrespectful. You're not giving them all. You're not giving what you are truly trying to convey or trying to be. Because love is about authenticity. It's about showing who you are. It's about being vulnerable. If you can love yourself, you can rely on yourself for things and not search for missing pieces in others you show affection to. I feel like a majority of people that are loving are indirectly trying to find missing pieces within others and not trying to find those pieces within themselves. I truly believe that you can find everything that you need in life through yourself. Obviously, I think love is an important thing. It's an important characteristic in life. It's that arc of something that is wow, that's just amazing. Love is beautiful. It's really great. It's really cool. And if you fully, love yourself, you understand others better. If you're gentle with your own flaws, you can be gentle with others. If you fully understand yourself, you can be gentle, you can be kind to yourself, you can be compassionate towards yourself. And like how I said earlier, the way you love yourself, the traits that you show, like kindness, respect, compassion, that's the blueprint. That's what you show. That's what you project to others. That's what you, illuminate to others. Like if you're, full of hate and you hate yourself, you're gonna see other people's flaws as a means of trying to prove or show that, hey, I still am, immature. I still have things to improve on. For example, if I had an insecurity about my hair and I didn't like the way my hair and the person that I was talking to had, maybe similar hair to me, I would hate their hair. Why? Because that flaw is illuminating to yourself. It's part of you. It's something that you can't truly get rid of yet because you're still trying to find self-love. And that's, the message that I'm trying to spread. Self-love is important, especially when trying to love others. You have better emotional regulation due to having high amounts of self-love. When you love yourself, you can, once again, you can be gentle. And being gentle is a form of emotional compassion for yourself. You can regulate your emotions better. You can be like, hey, I can do this. Whatever I'm going through, I can do this, Because emotions, you can be swayed by emotions easily. They're in and out, they're kind of just everywhere. And, if you have, high amounts of self love, you can regulate your emotions better. And regulating emotions leads to, just a better overall relationship because if you lash out or get angry at your partner because you can't control your emotions, that's a sign of immaturity. It's a sign of, you know, anger, and anger is what pulls people apart. And I completely agree with that. I think anger is it's a good emotion to use sometimes, but most of the time it's not. It pulls people apart, and I think what we need in the world right now is for people to connect more. You set standards for yourself. If you have low self-love, you'll say yes to anything. So if you have low amounts of self-love, you're a people pleaser in a way. Like if you attach yourself to someone else, you're going to say yes to things that you probably wouldn't say yes, normally. Things that you feel like when you're blinded by that love and you're attached, you're kind of just saying yes to things that you know that deep down this isn't what I need, but you do it anyways because you want that closeness, you want that intimacy, you want that, that relationship to stay alive. But in reality, if you have that, mindset, you are, secretly destroying the relationship because it's corruption, and corruption can hide itself, but it can, really, crack the foundation and make relationships something that are kind of more toxic. That's where toxicity comes from, especially in a lot of relationships nowadays. People go into love thinking, hey, I think I'm full and I'm content, and then you realize, hey, all these problems are stirring. I wonder why. Look at yourself. If you feel like your relationship is going through things, maybe you don't have enough of high amount of self-love. Obviously, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but my experiences with relationships and love with people, I don't have the self-love that I need. And if you aren't content with yourself, how do you expect to be content with others? It like The way that you see yourself is pretty much how you're going to see others. Not completely, because obviously everyone is different, and their own authenticity, their own uniqueness, but it's like, if you aren't content with yourself, if you're not content with your thoughts, if you're not content with the person who you are, how do you expect to be content with someone else's flaws, mistakes, and you know vulnerability and tender spots? An act of fully loving yourself, and then being able to accept others, which I got this idea or this definition from someone else, or this term. Acceptance is the highest form of love. You form a connection with no conditions, and I completely believe that. It's from a guy named Solus on YouTube. It's really nice. Check out his channel. And I completely agree with that. If you can accept the person for who you are, whatever form or state they show you, and you can accept that, that's love. That's the purest form of love. And I think that not many people do it nowadays, because people aren't willing to stay with the person and be able, I can't accept this person because they're being weak. They have conditions, and you can't have a good relationship, romantic love and just love in general, if you have predetermined conditions. Because if you set conditions, you're setting expectations, and expectations lead to both sides being mentally harmed. um What I more on the thing where I said you can't, feel, you can't. I forgot what I said. It was something, you can't pour from an empty cup. That's what I meant. Sorry. What I mean by empty is you feel empty, you're withdrawing, you're overthinking, and you're exhausted. If you're loving somebody and you feel these things, and it's not because of them, but it's something that just kind of stirs due to your own, mental thoughts and your patterns and how your brain works, maybe that's something you have to reflect on or improve. And ways to refill your cup per se is to tend to your own plant. Ways to refill or tend to your own plant. Water your own plant. Water your own plant first. Let yourself grow first, then go to others and water theirs and assist to theirs. Don't assist to theirs while you're still growing, because especially the age that I am. I'm 17. I'm a teenager still, and I'm in the state of trying to find who I am. I'm still growing. I'm still trying to learn who I am as a person. And if I'm trying to help someone else find themselves, I'm not giving time to myself, and that's not kind to myself. I'm not being compassionate, because I'm not giving the time that I need, because I'm in the state where I'm growing. I'm trying to figure out myself. And I feel like people go to love during this time because people are scared of not knowing who they are. Like, I don't know who I am, so I'm just going to try to find it in other people. That's not how that works. That's not love. That's attachment. That's, other, things that aren't love. And obviously, love it's not a universal. Many people have different definitions of love, but my definition of self-love or self-love is regards for one's well-being and happiness. And if you're in that state of, I don't know who I am, but I'm going to try to find others, you're not having regards for your own well-being. And relationships improve when you're full, when you're content, when you know who you are, because you become more generous, more stable, and less reactive and chasey. You don't chase people. When you are your own stable ground, your own stable foundation, you don't chase people. Don't chase validation. You don't chase things that you think, hey, if I get these things, if I get the things that I want, I'm going to be full. No, you're not. The way to become full, and yes, don't expect like, hey, once you find yourself, life is going to be easy. Life is hard. Life has many challenges, many ups and downs. And obviously, have that mindset of, hey, I still want to, learn who I am as a person. Love yourself. Love the person who you are. Like last video I said, love yourself how you love someone who you deeply care for. Treat yourself like you're somebody. And obviously, that can be a little difficult sometimes, because, you wake up with yourself, and it's just kind of normalized. You're kind of conformed to whatever happens to yourself. Love is, those little things. Self-love are these little things like working out, doing healthy things for yourself, doing things that lead to positive growth for yourself. And, you know, that's love, that's self-love. And once you can tend to your own plant, you can tend to others. You can garden other people's plants. That it's a metaphor here, not like literally. Um, but yeah, self-love is a reflection of how compassionate you are and willing to, you know, be with yourself and others. And you don't want to. Self-love isn't self-neglect. It's when you don't have that love that you have for yourself, especially when you feel like you have low amounts of self-love. Self-neglect takes its place. You ignore your own needs in order to satisfy others, the other end, especially when you're attached to people, or you think you're in love. And once again, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm speaking for mostly my own experience, and I'm just sharing my thoughts, things I think would be helpful for you guys to learn. Self-neglect is when it takes its place. You neglect your own well-being in the regards of trying to meet the expectations of the other, or just try to give everything that you have to the other. Yes, in romantic movies, you see, this guy is giving everything to this girl, or vice versa. It's very fabricated and romanticized because it's cool, But honestly, real love is not like that. I mean, there's some cases where people just are like that, and hey, congratulations. But it's just all about how you. At the end of the day, it's just all about how you treat yourself. Self-love is the responsibility of taking care of yourself. The thing that I keep saying. It's a responsibility. If you don't have that responsibility for yourself, you're not going to have that responsibility for others. You won't be able to uphold other people's responsibility. That's why most relationships fails nowadays, because, for many, many teenagers, because you're in that stage of trying to find yourself. You don't have enough respect for yourself. You don't love yourself. You're not full, and you don't know who you are. And if you go into a relationship thinking this is going to work out, by all means, I wish you guys the best, but there's a lot of things that can happen. And, obviously, some people say, yes, you can find yourself through other people. And I completely agree with that. I was like, my second video, I said something along the lines of that. I find meaning in people. I find connection in people. I find myself within people. It's like the thing, like, your inner friend group can lead to the person who you are. Your environment can lead to the person who you are. And, self-love is also confidence. Confidence, you don't fear losing people. If you have confidence, you're okay with losing people. You're okay with, changing happening, and you're okay with that stuff happening. That's something I'm still trying to learn, because I have a big fear of losing people, and that's like something that I still struggle with. But, I'm slowly realizing that, life and, people move on. And it's for the betterment of yourself. It's for the, betterment of your future, because if you give space to newer things, hey, they might have the chance of being better than what you already have. And um when you value yourself, you don't chase, cling, or beg for love from others. It's like what I said earlier about the respect. When you value yourself, you don't chase people for, validation or value, because you can find that within yourself. You can find that with, you know, within the things that you have, the hobbies, the traits, the person you are. I think self-love is really important, because if you don't have love for yourself, once again, you won't be able to love others. And, you know, you, once again, it's important, and you gain acceptance. Once you accept yourself, because that's the highest form of love, you can accept others. Same with forgiveness, it's with everything. If you can forgive yourself for past mistakes, past changes and stuff, you can forgive others for their mistakes and the things they do. Like, for example, if I have a girlfriend or they do something that I don't like, I can forgive them because I can forgive myself. Everything starts with yourself first. And, you just gotta, like how, gotta look in the mirror and reflect. And if you think that you're in that position where you feel like you are ready for a relationship, but you still have this flaws of like, I can't forgive myself, or I know I don't have the self-love, don't go into a relationship yet. It's also kind of, disrespectful to lead someone on. You think you're ready, but a few months later down the road, they're like, I don't know, I'm not really ready for anything. That's really disrespectful, because you wasted time, wasted effort, and, it's just a big mess up. So if you can prevent that, especially, being able to be reflective and observative when it comes to, hey, this person likes me, but if I'm not ready, I'm not going to lead them on. That's maturity. That shows that you have compassion for them. Obviously, people may see it as, well, you're not loving this, but how's that compassion? It's compassion because you're not going to lead them on into an area or a state of their life where they're going to be more negative about life. Especially when people get led on, it depends on how they react. If they react in a way where it's like, oh, I hate you, I can't believe you've done this, we all this time for what? That's immaturity. The person can be like, I understand, and move on with their life. That's acceptance. That's self-love. That's something that I believe is important. It's respectful to be full when connecting with others because once again, you're presenting yourself. You're being authentic about yourself. You're showing who you are truly instead of putting on some character just to be liked. And I think that's important because if you could show yourself who you are as a person, you will find the love that you sometimes desire. And I don't think desiring love is something that should be normalized. I also think that, you know, desire things for yourself first, and then desire, all the other things when relationships come way. And I also think, don't chase love. Love comes at the right time. When you least expect it, you're gonna find love, and you know when it's right. You just know when it's right, and yeah. So if you're in that state of like, hey, I'm kind of desiring a relationship, focus on yourself. Water your own plant. You can choose and achieve healing from others expecting it to work out. You can't chase or achieve healing from others expecting it to work out. So what I mean by this is, if you think you're in a really bad situation, especially that maybe you came out of a storm, what I mean by is, there's three places that you are in within life. You're about to go into a storm, you're currently in a storm, or you just got out of a storm. And what I mean by this is life issues, problems, bad things in life. And if you just got out of a storm and, hey, I think if I can, love can heal me. No, it won't. It really won't. Because once again, you gotta, deeply reflect. Am I willing to go into a relationship knowing that I'm not fully healed and it's not gonna work out? And you know that deep down, but yet you still probably are gonna chase. Why? Because you don't have that amount of self-love for yourself. And that's something I struggle with. I still struggle with that. I still have, those days where I don't have the high amount of self-love that I need for myself, because I think if I don't have the love, then how am I going to be content with myself as a character or as a person? And yeah, that's really all I have today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Just the key topic is, can't pour from an empty cup. You got to love yourself in order to love others properly, the right way, that's respectful, that leads to growth, and is a proper foundation of love. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice day, and yeah, I'll post another video soon. I waited a bit longer because I wanted to record in like the sun. Obviously right now it's a little cloudy, but the past 2 days has been a little cloudy. But anyways, thank you for listening. These were my thoughts. I hope whatever you take from this leads to beneficial growth for you guys. And yeah, thank you for listening, watching, whatever. And bye-bye. Love you guys. Have a good day.